Hello, so I decided to make another video. This one is going to be about basically being a masculine woman, a masculine detransitioned woman. I personally just call myself okay, I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong. I always pronounce the word wrong. I call myself a butch lesbian because I'm attracted to other women. I'm a woman, and I just happen to dress masculinely due to like dysphoria reasons, but also because I don't know. I like how men's clothes and stuff like that look on me. It matches my personality more and stuff like that. So that's why I dress the way I dress, and I always have. And I've decided I always will. I've throughout my detransition, I've struggled with the whole being being encouraged in one way or another to dress more feminine, to buy more women's clothing, even if they're not like super feminine, still like buying more women's clothing, wearing less men's clothing, stuff like that. By family, I've been encouraged, and society as a whole, because even if they're not like directly saying you need it just more feminine, the fact that everyone is still gendering me as a guy, and I know it's because the way I dress is playing a part in that. That does kind of like, if you're reading between the lines, if I'm dressing more like a guy, then I'm being gendered as a guy, and then say maybe when I decide to dress more feminine or whatever, because to please others, and then people uh complimenting my clothes. I don't really get my outfits complimented a lot if I'm wearing stuff like this, but I get a lot of compliments if I'm wearing women's clothing. Or I'm being gendered as a woman again, mostly by family. I think strangers still see me as a guy. I just don't like. I don't like. Not really. I don't know. I just, for some reason, I just don't like. I don't even know how to dress in women's clothing either. So there's that. Um, but I just feel like there's a lot of pressure I personally experienced with during my detransition, with this whole expectation to dress a certain way. Like most women in real life, like the women in my family, the women I see out on a day-to-day basis, they're all dressed. Even the tomboys or the more GNC women. To me, I still read them as women, like in dressing in women's clothing or not being masculine the way I am. So yeah, that's um, and then so yeah, that's I think that was my biggest struggle throughout the entire detransition, was just feeling like I'm not fitting in as a woman because do the I can't change up my style without being really uncomfortable in my skin. I think for me, like the whole point of my detransition, and I have to reaffirm this with myself, to remind myself of this, is that I detransitioned to accept myself as a masculine woman, to tell myself that I don't have to take testosterone, I don't have to be a man in society or live as a man in society in order to be able to be masculine. So, and during the transition, I struggled with that because the whole pressure of not being seen as a woman. I've even had family members telling me, you can always decide to present more female. Like, what's that supposed to mean? I am female. Um, like I'm literally on my period right now. I'm pretty sure that's not something men go through, but I guess the whole gender stuff is so deep that it doesn't really matter if you are biologically female. If I'm dressed like this, somehow that's coding to them that I must be something else than a woman. Like, I don't know. So I think this gender stuff has made my life more difficult. And this is another point I want to make. I feel like this gender, some people call it ideology or whatever. I'm not going to really call it a certain thing. I'm just going to call it the gender stuff, or the other people call it like the woke stuff or whatever. It makes lives for masculine women like me, and I'm sure for feminine men too, very difficult, because now the question of whether or not I am a woman is up for grabs. People Like, I think before this stuff really took hold in society, people changing up the language around the stuff and asking your pronouns. Like I gotta ask my pronouns too when I, like, for example, when I was trying to volunteer somewhere, you know, I had introduced myself as Tanya, but like towards the end of the first day of volunteering there, they asked me my pronouns. And I knew right away that obviously they weren't sure if I was like a woman or something like that. Because, like, I'm dressed like this and I have short hair, but I guess, I don't know, it's just very frustrating for me that society nowadays is like, if a woman or a man doesn't conform to how their gender is expected to dress and look, to other people, because we are visual. Humans are very visual. We very quickly code people male or female based off of like how they dress, how they look physically, stuff like that, their voices too. And if someone doesn't match how we expect a man or a woman to look or sound, then we don't know what their gender is and stuff. And I feel like that's gotten worse as the trans stuff has had more awareness and acceptance in society. Now I know even before the trans stuff it was difficult because I think gender in one way or another has always been very strict. Men are expected to do this, women are expected to do this. But in the past it was more like I guess I don't know too much. Like I'm not like a historian, but I do know that I think there were like laws like you could get into legal. Now I'm not like for sure. I've read this somewhere, so someone might have to fact check me on this. But I'm pretty sure like cross dressing. I'm not like a woman cross dressing or a man cross dressing was illegal at some point. Like you could actually get in trouble for it. Oh, I know that. What is that woman? She was like oh, I feel like it's stupid saying a warrior, but she fought in some war thing and she got burned at the stake. And if I remember correctly, it wasn't so much it was because she was cross-dressing or something. I don't know. Like, if her name comes to mind. Yeah, I can't remember the name. You guys might know who I'm referring to, but like this, like it's always in society, it's always been difficult for anyone who was more gender non-conforming, who didn't fit in with, you know, the basically the same-sex peers. Like, if you stood out in any way, you could get in trouble. You could be presumed to be gay or something like that. Like, I mean, there's this whole joke that like within like the lesbian community, it's much easier like the what they there's this whole butch and femme like dynamic, and I think there's a joke that it's like much more easier to spot a butch lesbian than it is a femme, because a femme is gonna look like just any other woman versus a butch lesbian is gonna look like me and I'm gonna stand out. Like, among a group of women, and then me, I'm obviously gonna look a little different than them and sound different now too because I'm detransitioned. But I don't know, I'm just going on a rant here. I just feel like society is backwards. I feel like in the past things were hard, but it hasn't really changed. In the present, things are just as strict as they were back then, except for the consequences are different. In the past, you might have been arrested, harassed, stuff like that, burned at the stake if you're the case of that person. Although, I mean, I think they also just like got, like for losing sight of a war, usually there's consequences for them. But now it's like you're presumed to be a man. If you're like me, you get caught up in all that stuff and you go on hormones and live like your entire youth as a man before you realize that that was not actually for you. I mean, now it's just like people just, if you're a masculine woman, people don't really see you as a woman. That's just the way it is. Like if I go into a bathroom, people are not gonna, they'll be uncomfortable with my presence there. And for that reason, I have to delegate myself to going into the men's restroom, or I mean, mostly I just prefer finding like a family restroom or gender neutral restroom, something where it's a single person restroom, so it's not really gonna matter. Like, just because I'm not really comfortable going into the men's, but like, what choice do I have if there's no other option available? And I think that just goes to show how accepting society is of much women or masculine women. I mean, I think there's even like sometimes they might even like maybe not someone like me because my voice has changed because I was on testosterone, but say like a masculine woman who's never been on T, like a other women might recognize that she is a masculine woman, but I've heard stories of masculine women being harassed in bathrooms, even just because they look different, and the other women they're uncomfortable with that or something like that. So so this is basically just a rant about, I guess, the way I see it is society isn't as inclusive or as accepting of people who are gender non-conforming as we like to think we are. You get medicalized and stuff like that, and I fell for that. And when I was 13, and I mean, I'm out of it, but like even in my detransition, I'm like when I was a trans man, it was fully accepted. I was just another dude, but now that I'm a masculine woman, I have people asking me, "Oh, you're non-binary? You might be gender fluid," or stuff like my doctors and or like past therapists I've had. They when I would tell them I'm detransitioning, they just suggest, all these other labels for me. Not just that, okay, you're just a woman who happens to be masculine, that's okay. Like it's always assumed I'm something else. Or I'm just like I don't know. And then like sometimes I feel like even the ones who do say, like who act like they're okay with me being a woman aren't like they still don't see me like as one of them. Like there's this whole I remember like in college there was this idea of a sisterhood, like some like now there was also one for the men too. I forgot what theirs was called. There was like a group thing, and they could like help each other out with homework and stuff like that for like, a community college. And like I feel like I wouldn't really belong in the whole and they literally called it the sisterhood. Like that's what the group for the women were called. I feel like I would not like belong in there, and like my heart just sinks like when they said the sisterhood, just because like I just feel very much like I'm like maybe they would be like accepting of me being there just to be inclusive and stuff like that. I feel like they would still be uncomfortable with it because I just don't. I mean, look at me. So I just ow God. Man, I keep forgetting that I have these earrings, and then my hand just like went past it, and then it hurts. And it's man, I've caught the earring on like my shirt like 3 times. But I mean, besides that, it's healing well. I just like I forget that the earrings are there because it feels like nothing, and then suddenly it's sore after I forget about it and get a cut on my shirt or something like that. So I don't know. But I mean, it's healing okay besides that. So yeah, I just like man, I did not write down my thoughts for how I wanted to talk about this, which is why I'm probably like all over the place. I'm just like, I think the main thing I'm trying to get across here is that detransition just seems like I'm falling back into the same issues I had when I was a woman, or I guess a girl technically, because this was when I was a teen. I wasn't an adult yet. When I was a girl before I transitioned, it's the same issues, except for now people think I'm gender fluid. I remember my family, this was with my extended family, my aunt and my uncle. I was going by Tanya at this time, and I made it very clear, but they were calling me nicknames like Tati. My nickname is Tanya with the family, and they were calling me like Tati or Tani or stuff like that. And then I remember another time they suggested that I should use a bi-gender name or a like a unisex name or something like that, even though that just like irritated me because like yes, I know I was struggling with my name and I was going back and forth, so it was probably confusing you guys, but this detransition has not been easy. I mean, it's like it's trying to undo a whole almost 10 years of thinking I'm a guy. That is not an easy task to do. I mean, and not only that, but like the medical side of it too. I didn't get surgeries, but I was on testosterone for a long time. And then just the mental impact of thinking I'm a guy for that long. I mean, it's not something you can just like do a quick U-turn. Like, it's not easy. But like, it just irritates me because like I'm it doesn't help me accept myself as a woman if everyone else is like is almost uncomfortable to call me by Tanya or I don't know. And I think they wanted it because like I was out to them as a woman. I was telling them I'm a woman. I'm no longer identifying as a trans man. And so I guess so they see me as a woman, but then they see me dressed in the way I'm dressing. So then they think, okay, well, since you're a woman but you're masculine, so therefore you should use a bigender name or something like that. I think that's the reason why. So I don't know. The whole thing's just frustrating. And I just been dealing with like stuff like that, or like people telling me to use the men's restroom because I look like a guy, or something like that, which is like, so so that's the point I want to get across, and I just hope that one day society can actually be more accepting, not like the whole like, oh, we're accepting, like go transition yourself and stuff like that. We'll like support you all the way. Like that's a very superficial level of acceptance. Um, like that's not really. I mean, it's like it's just. I guess you could call it like sexist. It's just like packaged up and in a new like I don't know, like to be presented in a different way, like the sexism back then versus the sexism now. It's the same thing, just rebranded, basically. So, and like masculine woman and feminine man, I think deal with it a lot because we don't we don't fit in with how society expects women and men to be, and so we end up getting trans to feel like me or stuff like that, and so it's just frustrating. So right now my goal is get rid of all the women's clothing because it's doing me no good to keep it. I was encouraged to hold on to it, but that's really not helping me. So that's not the type of woman I am. And I think it does, I think it hurts my mental health worse to keep trying to force myself to fit into some mold I just don't naturally fit into. So I gotta work on holding my ground more. So, basically holding my ground and respecting myself more. Um, so yeah, that's what this video is about. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll post another one later on. This is just like my initial thoughts, just to get it out there. I think this is a really good discussion to have because I feel like I'm not the only detransitioned woman who is dealing with this, dealing with feeling the pressure to conform to womanhood expectations or stuff like that. I see a lot of I mean I'm sure some are doing it because they want to do it like that's the right thing for them, but I do see a lot of like there's this common theme of detransitioned women, they initially come out as being detransitioned, I see them still kind of like dressing like similar to how I dress, but then, like slowly as time goes on, the hair gets grown out. They start wearing dresses or just feminine clothing in general. And I'm sure some of them it's like how they naturally want to be, and some of them are in the stories I read were like feminine before they even transitioned. So like it's different than me who was like masculine before I transitioned. Like I was always a masculine kid, and some of them weren't that way. So it's obviously different people, different situations, but I've just noticed this like pattern of detrans women basically going back to being feminine and stuff like that. I have not seen a whole lot of masculine detransitioned women. There's like one other right now, and maybe another one. I'm not sure, but I just so that's just something I've noticed too, and I think that just goes along with the whole wanting to fit in with other women and stuff like that. For some of them, not all of them. And I've, I struggled with that too. And obviously, I've had my whole phases of trying to dress more feminine and stuff like that. Didn't it? I mean, my reasoning was like so I could like be read as a woman and stuff like that. But now it's like, should I even care? Like I am a woman. So I mean, it's hard because like I do care, but like at the same time, I need to stand up for myself because it doesn't make me happy to be feminine when that's not naturally how I am. I'm just like there's many different kinds of women, and one of the kinds of women are masculine women. That's just what I happen to be. Obviously, there's women who are naturally more like feminine and stuff like that. But I'm not like that. So yeah, that's just what I wanted this video to be about. Give me your thoughts below. Hopefully, I wasn't too offensive to anyone. It's kind of a thin line there. It's easy to cross. So yeah, I just, if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe, turn on your notifications if you're interested in any others. I'm still thinking about doing an AMA, but I'm gonna give it just a little more time because I do have more videos I want to make first before I do a live stream or stuff like that. And I also only want to do that if you guys want me to do that. So, okay, guys. Well, bye bye.